Hawks Hoop Squawk Talk. I got banned and booted from the Wilt Chamberlain group, all for calling out Phacks. And you know, Phacks don't give a fuck about feelings. Now, Wilt Chamberlain, one of my all-time favorite players, headlines my all-time starting five along with Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. That's my all-time top five. And all the time, I take that over any other starting five. But anyway, you got to call out Phacks. Now, I was a fan favorite in the Wilt Chamberlain group for my posts, the collages I would put together, like a Wilt from wearing each of his 76ers jerseys. You know, he was with the Sixers 3.5 seasons. And they wore a different jersey. Well, he came in halfway through 64 or 65 when they was wearing the first Philadelphia 76er jersey, where the road jerseys was a dark blue with red writing PHILA on the front with the number and the number on the back. Back then they didn't have the last names on the back of the jerseys. The 65, 66, you know, the two-tone where it was white at the top, red at the bottom. While the road uniforms, it was the red top with the dark blue shorts. Not one of my all-time favorite Sixer jerseys, but a classic nonetheless. Then, you know, the iconic ones that they wore for the 67 championship season and also wore them the following season. You know, the classic road blue with the PHILA and the number, and they changed the road color from blue to red right before the 68-69 season, Wilt's first season in LA after being traded. Now, the thing that they didn't like, they got me banned and booted from the group, was when I finally called them out after all the years of Wilt fans making excuses for the 1968 Eastern Division Finals against the Celtics. You got the Sixers, the defending champions. They came back in 67-68, 62 games, 62 wins against 20 losses. Remember, this was the first season that the NBA went to an 82-game schedule. The year before, that was the lone season, they played 81 games. Hence the 68-13 record by the Sixers that year. Prior to that, the teams played 80 games during the regular season. Hence the Sixers 55 and 25 record in 65-66, 40 and 40 in 64-65, and 34-46 the inaugural season, 1963-64. Anyway, the 67-68 team coming fresh off that championship, playing in a brand new Philadelphia Spectrum, back then a state-of-the-art basketball arena. Wilt wins his third of 3 straight MVPs, capped off 3 straight rebounding titles, led the league in assists. He had won his final scoring title in 65-66, and the only center to lead the league in assists. Great team. Everybody assumed the Sixers was going to repeat. Everybody figured Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics was done. You know what I mean? Their heydays way behind them, which it was until spring of 1968. So the Sixers, they go into the playoffs. They're the top team again. Billy Cunningham, Sixers 6 man at the start. I mean, the Sixers 6 man at the time. And their next star after Wilt. Back then, Billy C was coming off the bench. He was only in his 3rd year, but he was an integral part of that 67 title team. It was had an even bigger role on the 68 squad. He gets hurt against the Knicks in Game 3 of the 68 Division Finals. That's the number one reason fans use for the Sixers failing to repeat as champions. Now, yeah, Billy Cunningham's absence did nonetheless hurt the team. And with Billy Cunningham, even with what I'm about to bring up next, I feel if you add Billy Cunningham, the Sixers probably do win the series. But the thing is, they should have won the series regardless of Billy Cunningham, because even without Billy C at the time, they were still a better team than the Celtics. Yeah, you still had Russ. You still had Sam Jones. Both of them were 35 years old. John Havlicek was really the star of the team by then, because he was the only one of those top players in his prime. Celtics still had a good team, don't get me wrong, but Billy Cunningham being hurt is not the excuse, or is not the reason for the Sixers losing, despite had he been there when Wilt played like this in Game 6 and 7, I still think they might squeeze or the win. What I'm saying is, even with Billy C hurt, which he was, the Sixers still should have won that series. Now, we beat the Knicks in 6. You know what I mean? We beat the Knicks in 6. Going to the Boston series. You know, this is all after the tragedy with Martin Luther King or whatever. And nobody really wanted to play that first game, but they knew all hell would break loose if they postponed or boycotted the game. So anyway, the Celtics come out. They win the very first game of that series, 127-118. All right, the Sixers rebound, went 3 straight games. They win Game 2, 115-106 in Boston, because this is back when every other game was played in the opposite arena. Game 1 in Philly, Game 2 in Boston, Game 3 back in Philly. Sixers win Game 3, 122-114. Then take Game 4 back in Boston, 110-105. Boom. Now the Sixers have a 3-1 lead. They're in a clear position to win this series. All they have to do is win Game 5 back at the Spectrum, April 15th, 1968. But this is the Boston Celtics, Bill Russell, with their backs against the wall. They're not going down that easy. So they rebound. They come back 122-104. 18-point lead. Keep their season alive. Sam Jones leading the way with 37 points. Force Game 6 back in Boston. Boom. This is the Sixers' perfect chance to beat the Celtics again, but this time doing it on their home floor. And if you see the box scores before seeing the final score, and you see that Hal Greer scored 40 points, Wilt Chamberlain 20 points, 27 rebounds, 8 assists, who knows how many blocks, as they weren't counted back then. Just looking at that alone, you would figure, oh, all right, damn, the Sixers won, they beat Boston in 6. And they're going back to the finals where they'll surely beat the Lakers because they have nobody for Wilt. Nope. Absolutely not. Boston wins 114-106. The force of Game 7. Now, this is the first thing I pointed out when I came with my receipts, which had Wilt fanboys in their feelings. Because all they talk about is Game 7 and the other players, which we'll get to in a minute. Because, you know, all you hear is, oh, how bad Hal Greer, Chet Walker, and Wally Jones played, how bad they played, which they did. They were ice cold. Chet Walker and Wally Jones played terrible in Game 6. Especially Chet Walker shooting just 5 for 16 from the floor, although he still managed 16 points and 7 rebounds. But Hal Greer, meanwhile, 15 for 24 from the floor, scored 40 points, leading all scorers. Now let's see. I told you Wilt Chamberlain had the 20 points and the 27 rebounds. 6 for 21 from the floor. And an atrocious 8 for 22 from the foul line. Even bad for his standards. 36% from the foul line. 28% from the field. Sixers lose by 8 points. Now, Wilt is a career 50% free throw shooter, right? 50%. 51.1 to be exact for his career. Wilt had a bad year that year shooting free throws anyway. But even Wilt at average, you know what I mean, he had plenty of seasons where he was a 50% free throw shooter. So let's see, 8 for 22. That's 14 free throws that he missed. Say out of those 22 attempts, he makes 3 more. The free throws isn't the issue because everybody knows Wilt, Shaq as well, were horrible free throw shooters. However, that didn't diminish their greatness by one bit. So we're not even going to focus on the free throws. Forget the free throws. Let's say he still is 8 for 22 from the foul line. 6 for 21 from the field is atrocious. 28%. And an 8-point loss. Let's say he hit 11 for 21. That's just over 50%. That's 5 more field goals. That's 10 more points for the Sixers who won that damn game. Now let's say Wilt shot just under 50%. Let's say he went 9 for 21 from the line. Those 3 free throws. And let's say he made 3 more of those free throws and 3 of those 15 missed shots. Sixers win the game. Before you have to play game 6 before you get to game 7. You know what I mean? That's basic math, basic common sense, basic knowledge. Game 6 comes before game 7. Wilt fans only want to point out game 7 when Hal Greer 8 for 25, Chet Walker 8 for 22, and Wally Jones 8 for 22. 32% for Greer, 36% for Greer and Walker. Lou Jackson shot 7 for 17, just 41%. The whole team shot poorly that game. So you look at that and be like, yeah, damn, that's why the Sixers lost. Wilt only shot 4 for 9, 6 for 15 from the free throw line, which is Wilt at average, just 40% from the stripe. All right, he had finished with 14 points, 34 rebounds. The issue is Wilt refused to shoot the ball in the second half and instead relied on his ice cold teammates. Chet Walker already had a bad game 6. So why would you look to him in game 7? And this has been a mystery for years. A lot of old heads try to debunk it and make excuses. Oh, they was throwing bodies at Wilt and forcing him to pass the ball. But then you have people that were actually there, like my uncles and great uncles, who watched the game on TV. Back when the Sixers came on Channel 17, yeah, I'm going way, way back. They said Wilt refused to shoot the ball in the second half. Like, and you know me, which people might call a conspiracy theorist, people like us who are labeled that would think, was Wilt paid to throw the game, or things that make you go, But anyway, let's just keep it to a basketball standpoint. I broke these things down to a science in the group, and fanboys got mad. They mocked and ridiculed me. Like, oh, you must be a Celtics fan, or oh, you're an MJ fanboy, because, you know, when you bring up facts about one player, they make it seem like you're a cult fanboy of another, which makes no sense. Just a ridiculous attempt at deflecting. Again, Wilt's one of my all-time favorite players. But since we always want to have this GOAT debate, and how everybody in the group be like, oh, Wilt's the GOAT, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, he's the GOAT athlete. You know what I mean? The greatest player to ever play for the Sixers, Lakers, and the Warriors. The greatest player to play for all three franchises. But when you talk about the GOAT debate, you got to factor in team success as well as individual accolades. That's why MJ is the unanimous GOAT for those reasons, because you got the individual stats and the team success. And I ain't trying to hear about eras and competition and none of that bullshit that losers try to use as an excuse to glorify losing. And that's what a lot of Wilt fans did in the group. And I'm like, that's one Game 7 that he should have not lost. Because Wilt's 0 for 5 in Game 7s. 62 to the Celtics. 65 to the Celtics. 68 to the Celtics. 69 to the Celtics. And 70 to the Knicks. Like I said, there you have your different theories about 69 and Wilt and their coach or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't really talk much about 69. 70, that Knicks team was that damn good. Wilt had missed all but 12 games that year. You know what I mean? It was still beasting. So I don't hold those Game 7s against them. 62, Sam Jones with the clutch shot. The original Mr. Clutch. 65, Havlicek stole the ball. You know, and that was Boston at their peak. You know what I mean? Still at Heinsohn. Red was still on the sidelines. Russell was still in his prime. Sam Jones was still in his prime. That's when Hondo was really coming into him being him. Hondo. But 68, though, with Wilt, it's like, you can't let 68 down. You know what I mean? That's on Wilt. You know what I mean? That's what the GOAT players do. And, you know, fanboys, no matter who they're a fanboy of, they hate to hear facts. You know what I mean? They make every excuse for losing. I'm like, okay, make every excuse, but the thing is, you can't be the GOAT of a team sport and you have a stain like that, and people don't like to call these things out. I've seen other fans of the game who love Wilt have said the same thing, but that's the thing. You're not supposed to criticize somebody you like or point out facts without it being considered as hate. My thing is, the Sixers should have had another title in 67, 68. They should have been back-to-back titles. And as I stated before, I'm not sure if I did a video on this or not. I may have. As a matter of fact, I think I have, about Wilt not staying in Philly past 1968. People blame that on ownership and Jack Ramsey and blame the loss against the Celtics. Nah. Wilt always planned on retiring out on the West Coast. Either going back to San Francisco, joining the Lakers, or he was going to jump ship to the ABA to play for the Oakland Oaks, who Alex Hanum coached that next season. So the 68 loss doesn't have nothing to do with, or none of those other things have anything to do with Wilt. Wilt wasn't playing in Philly past 67, 68. That's all the more reason why it should have ended with back-to-back titles. The 67 Sixers are one-hit wonders because of what happened in the spring of 68. Got Russell another championship. That's the only bright side to that is that Bill Russell, the first black coach to win a championship, and he was a player coach doing it, changed the game. You know, when the Wilt fanboys would call me a Russell fanboy, all because I pointed out these facts about 68. The other losses to the Celtics before that, you know what I mean, 66, Celtics was still just in their prime, and you know what I mean, I would have to, I'll dissect the 66. That Celtics team was just too good in 66. It's 68 that stands out for me, though. And also in 66, you had beef between Wilt and Dolph Schayes. That goes back to when Wilt was with the Philadelphia Warriors and Schayes with the Syracuse Nationals. You know what I mean? So that wasn't going to work out anyway. So it's like 68 is the only thing I could hold against Wilt. Like I said, he would be 3-4 in the finals. Still a loser finals record, but 3-4 looks a lot better than 2-4. I'm just saying. Wilt headlines my all-time Sixers starting five, of course. He's on a GOAT tier along with Doc and AI. And speaking of Doc, you know what I mean, I got a video coming up that Doc fanboys ain't going to like. And I got a story on that. But anyway, ain't nothing but love for all those players. All these players, I'm speaking facts on to some of my all-time favorites. Like even Doc. I think I got Doc on my all-time second team. But anyway, there's just some Hawk Squawk talk on hoops. I mean, stay tuned for more content. Subscribe to the channel. Like and share. Hawk out.